really big shoes. Really big shoes.
Welcome everyone. As David used to say, it's a good looking crowd tonight. My name's Sam Poindexter, NI4TG, and we always start by introducing ourselves, name and call sign. We'll start right here. Jerry.
Jerry, K4GW.
Henry, W2DZO.
Linda, KW4UD.
Ben, KW4UC.
Mary, KM4WPL.
Steve, KM4LKT.
Mike, W4LKM.
Sparky, KE4TES.
Derek, KM4CW.
Tim, KF4HXG.
Dan, KC4WSK.
John, KM4HBB.
I'm Randy, NC4RT.
I'm Michael, K4RYLV.
Bruce, WB4QCM.
David, N5WNB. Harold, N4HER.
David, KC4X.
Gaff, Whiskey 4, Golf Yankee Papa.
Mary, KN4LKO.
David, W4OIL.
Stephen, JG4JWU.
Stacy, W1LLO.
Jim, KV4SJ.
Don, WS4NC.
Jeff, AC4YN.
Pedro, KN4GKY.
Steve, K2NLF.
Mark, KX4PZ.
Terry, AK4D, and my wife Jane, AK4D/XYL.
It's actually household 6.
Gotcha.
Steve, KM4OCR.
Dave, WA4MKK.
Okay, very good. Several people out tonight, but I did want to recognize Terry is back with us after being gone for 3 months. Terry, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Would someone step in there and Dawn? The announcements for tonight, next month's presentation will be by Gaff Pierce, W4GYP, and that presentation is going to be on how to work the world using half a watt and a hotspot. And topics will include D-Star, DMR, System Fusion, so we really look forward to that. I wanted to take this opportunity to wish Don Edwards a happy birthday. Don, you don't look 85. And we have a special presentation tonight, and you know, I'm honored to introduce these people. Jerry, would you come up here for a second? Jerry Minor. Don has a presentation for Jerry.
Yeah, and you will know what this is after you open it.
All right.
That's unusual.
Yeah,
Let's see if I can figure out how to get it up.
and some of you will remember why that's significant.
No, I got it.
What is it? A power supply? No, it's not.
Oh, I see the controls here. So
Yes, it is
a
a
garage door.
Harold brought that into the shop, and I go, I know
see
who
the
needs
codes
that.
All right.
Very quickly, we have new QSL cards. If you want one, you may have one. I'm going to pass a stack
I'll
around.
take one too.
Vistaprint did a bargain. We got 1,000 for, I think, $55, something like
Like the
that.
old ones.
And I just made it
Thank
look
you.
like the old one. You're welcome. And and I'm just going through answering the QSL cards right now, and we got a car from W4TNF and had a letter in it. Who was working 40 meters CW at field day last year?
Brian.
Jim or Brian? This morning was magic. June 25th, 2018, 10:30 a.m. Last hours of American Ham Radio's yearly extravaganza. I'm tuning across 7032, 40 CW. Suddenly there is field day, W4NC field day. I replied, W4TNF. He returns, W4TNF, 98, North Carolina. Boom. I replied, the contact is complete. I said, mesmerized.
remembering 64 years before when I was at the other end of that QSO. Field day, 1954, in the middle of the woods on the shoreline of High Rock Lake. Primitive setting, small unoccupied house amid the trees. I'm skipping some of this. Somebody had made nice wooden W4 and C signs on short metal sticks. They only had left-hand arrows. we have some like that, and I'm wondering if that's not it. Auto engine powered generator. That generator is famous. I've run some things in the newsletter about it. Amos Clark helped build that. Wilson Lamb has told us some things about it. Among the club members present were Wilson Lamb, W4BOH, Amos Clark, who passed away last year, just a few days shy of 100 years old. And this QSO card on the cover, when the old shack was sold, and which was about 1970, Amos was over there and he cleaned some things out and he gave me some of those cards. There's one hanging on the wall in there. We gave some away to old members, but that's a copy of the original QSL card. Amos Clark, Al Heggie, co-owner of Dalton Heggie, Bill Cruz, self-appointed field day cook who wouldn't let anyone else step foot in the kitchen area, Herman Yolitz. I didn't know Herman, who lived in somewhere in eastern North Carolina but maintained his membership, always arriving at field day in his loud and powerful motorboat. Bill Bain, recent Western Electric transplant from up north. Dick St. Clair, I didn't know Dick. I remember Bill well. Dick St. Clair, a younger Western Electric engineer who had a minor tiff with Yolitz because he wanted to set up a third station and set off a portion of the woods. We were on 9A. They were fighting over having 3. Beecham Leonard, transmitting engineer at WSJS in Southtown Mountain. Johnny Beckman, W4BTX, this card here. Who would later become the widely known and highly regarded 11 p.m. weatherman at WSB in Atlanta. Dutchie Harris, who lived in Lexington. I don't think he ever touched a microphone in his life. And this guy was one of the 3 or 4 teenagers present, having just completed his junior year at Reynolds High School. The CW transmitter was 2 push-pull 807s. On a black breadboard with an open air back. Don't touch. We never used it back at the club station because it would have ripped up every television within a half mile. Antenna was an in-fed Z, originating 60 feet above our heads in hardwood and a small finger of the lake to another tree. Getting that antenna up required some accurate rock throwing and a trip across the water in a rowboat. Best of all was our receiver. Dutchie's National HRO 60. That was a beast. That was like a car in place. Plug-in coils for changing bands. CW contacts flowed day and night, starting in the east, moving to the west, even to Hawaii. CQ Field Day W4 and C. The food was magnificent. Bill Cruz should have been a chef in somebody's restaurant. The mosquitoes love their weekend feast. That's what you get for being in the lake. Enjoying the unaccustomed delicacy of human flesh. He slept in a very soggy hammock that held mosquito netting. Field day was not designed for sleep. The morning brought this all back. Thanks to W4 and C for a 2018 Field Day station. This is great. This is running news. That's awesome.
Thank you, Don. I wanted to mention that the business meeting is next Monday night. The board is working on some exciting projects, and everybody's welcome. We eat about 6:15 or 6:30, and then we have the meeting at 7:30 at 66 Pizza. June will be Field Day. We do not have our Ham Fest this June, so all of our focus can be on Field Day. I want you to be thinking about how you can support that. Henry wants to say just a couple of words about Field Day this year.
following that is great, that story, about field day. Yeah, and it's perfect because that's the kind of thing that field day does, for ham radio operators and folks who might not dream of being a ham radio operator. He mentioned the name Bill Bain, who was a president of this club for years ago. He had a sideline of fixing AV equipment at this private school over here. And when I was in the maintenance department, we had a common thread of electronics, and Bill Bain was responsible for, by me meeting him at a field day, responsible for me doing what I do at Summit School and bringing a ham station there. So there's so many connections that you draw with field day. And we've been very lucky. Is Darren here? I didn't see Darren. Darren Knight's been running our field day event, and I think the formula he's got it nailed. We have been operating at a top 2 or 3, 1, 2, or 3 in the state and the U.S. for a bunch of years now, and that's a testament to not only Darrell's guidance, but also all of us committing to the fact that field day is fun for us, but it's also fun for the people who show up. Just like a kid in 1987 who went to Wake Forest and found a club operating in the parking lot that year. And there's a picture of me with a motorcycle helmet looking at Bob Gates operating W1HRC. That's how I found it. So, I mean, there's just so many connections. I'm going to be doing field day this year. I've cleared a schedule. I've always end up having something going on in the last couple years with school, but I managed to clear it. I'm excited about it. The rules came out, and there aren't any changes with the rules, but what we're going to do is just 3 main things differently, and I'll take care of that with your help. One of the things is we're going to make sure that before we leave the site, we will have the score. We will have the submission. We won't have to chase down 22 people and 17 cameras. I will be gathering that as we go, which makes that a lot easier. The second thing is I think field day is great for us, but we want to make it a little bit more exciting for the people who don't know what it is and don't know what the hobby is. So we're going to have a running total going, whether it's projector or whiteboard, of states on all the different bands. So at any given point, we can look right up and see where we are. We can show it to a visitor. They can look at the log. They can understand what's going on there. So that's the second thing we do. We won't put that on the generator, how we run the projector. But that should be a lot of fun. The last thing is what I'd like to do, and this is something I'm going to take part in a lot, is I want the go-to station to be one of the priorities. We're only allowed 500 contacts, and we're averaging 80, 70. And I think the go-to station is where we can get new people involved. And even you old folks, and old to the hobby, or old, not old in age, but old to the hobby, who may not do a lot of HF. We get you in there. I would love us to see us max out the go-to station, 500 contacts. They'll have a 40 through 10 meter Yagi on the trailer if I get it all fixed up and ready to go. And so that station will have its own thing. It won't have to be sort of a crutch for the other stations, so it'll have its own thing. I think those 3 things will add to the fun of field day, but also add to the ability of us extending into the community and inviting those who show up and giving them a heck of a show, because it is one of the best parts of the hobby is field day. It's the camaraderie. Steve's going to do food, and we should have a good time. So I'll send some notes out. We're going to need band captains. We're going to need the Thursday, Friday crack setup crew, and we'll hopefully hope for good weather. But I just wanted to touch base, let you know that we are going to do those things. If you're interested in being a part of it, shoot me an email or run me down and we'll get you going.
Thank you, Henry. We appreciate that, and we're looking forward to field day. Kent, our treasurer, is out tonight. He
the Treasury has $4,186.09. So that's the Treasurer's report. I don't see Dale to give us the repeater report and the testing report. So with that, I'm going to give it to Harlan for tonight's presentation on ARES AUXCOM. Stacy, you want to put your mic up? It's already up? Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Again, I'm Harlan. I'm W1HRC. I am the AUXCOMM-ARES manager for Forsyth County. We're going to spend a lot of time tonight. There's a lot of information I'm going to put out, and it's going to be a busy evening. Hopefully we'll get it done in a short time. It won't be too painful. But we're going to cover a little bit about what ARES is, what AUXCOM is, what about RACES. We're going to give you what Forsyth County AUXCOM-ARES is, which is what we now are, what our mission and structure and the state comm plan is. We're going to talk about why we train. We're going to talk about our required training and recommended training, on-air training, the communications exercises, some new things, qualification levels. Also ID badging. There is a new ID badging process, along with how do you apply to be part of AUXCOM-ARES. So anyway, ARES is part of the ARRL. It is their emergency services section. That's theirs. It is formed at the county level. There is nothing below a county level. A club, for example, cannot make a ARES unit for a particular city. Large metropolitan areas, there have been some exceptions like LA, which takes up several counties, but essentially in North Carolina, one EC for every county. That person is the one who's responsible, and the EC is the emergency coordinator. They're responsible for all area activities within that county. Okay. This year, everything's changed for ARES. There's new certification and training requirements. AUXCOM, auxiliary communications, that's all that is. It's short for auxiliary communications. It's a DHS emergency support function, specifically for communications. Within that function, amateur radio plays a significant role. In the state of North Carolina, they have deemed that amateur radio is the primary unit responsible for all AUXCOM communications within the state. And that includes CB, REACT, CERT teams, GMRS, FRS, anything else falls under us. We coordinate it, we manage it. That's our responsibility as AUXCOM units within the state. So who has a GMRS license? Okay, doesn't mean you have to, but it's good to have one. Okay, we don't need it for FRS or MERS or anything else. How many people in here are CERT qualified? Part of the CERT teams. Okay, we can become CERT team qualified. There's actually a class coming up in May. It's a 3-day course. So all those things can happen. We coordinate with them and we work with them. At Forsyth County Emergency Operations Center, there is one auxiliary communications point. That's us. We have to coordinate with the CERT teams in the field and everything else. And we're working on how that's going to occur. We're still making those agreements with the CERT teams and figuring out what their communications is and trying to come up with how we're going to interface. Anyway, RACES, Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Services. Basically what that is, if you read the reg, it's the civil defense part. Now, civil defense is no longer around, is it? What's it morphed into? Emergency management. Okay. In the state of North Carolina, they have designated AUXCOM as the RACES equivalent. So that's it. If you're part of RACES, if you're part of AUXCOM and you're qualified within AUXCOM with the appropriate training, you get registered in the state database and you are essentially a RACES station. Because what happens, and when does RACES come into effect? When the president declares
the War Powers Act, and he uses that and he activates that, the FCC at that point in time takes control of radio spectrums. And they will take control of ours. And at that point in time, the only stations that can transmit are RACE stations, those stations that have that certification. And they can only do transmissions in relation to that emergency. They can't get on there and chit-chat. So it completely quiets it down. So that's the reason why we have moved into AUXCOM, because the state of North Carolina's gone that way, and that's your RACES. So if you're AUXCOM qualified, you're there. So that leads us into this slide. Why did we change the name from Forsyth County ARES to AUXCOMM-ARES? Well, AUXCOM is primary in the state of North Carolina. So we've been designated that. We've maintained ARES in part of our name to avoid confusion, so that everybody still realizes that ARES is part of this, but it is not the primary part. It is an element of AUXCOM. So here's our mission. Pretty simply in its nutshell, we will perform as needed under ESF 2, Emergency Support Function 2, for the Forsyth County Emergency Management Agency. We may be asked to do the same for surrounding counties that do not have an AUXCOM unit in that county through mutual aid. Right now, those counties are Davie, Davidson, Yadkin, Stokes. Guilford County has a very active AUXCOM unit. But we do have those agreements with those other counties, and we can move into them upon request. If they request the Forsyth County Incident Management Team to be deployed to those counties, you can be guaranteed Forsyth County AUXCOMM-ARES will be activated. You will be part of that deployment. Yes?
All those counties have EOCs?
Yes. They do. And I can tell you the reason you'll be activated is because I'm the communications lead for Forsyth County Incident Management Team. And so I will be activating you folks. Why? Because I want the backup communications. I want everything I can get my hands on. So here's kind of what the structure looks like in North Carolina. I don't have a pointer. Wish I did. You have the North Carolina Office of Emergency Management at the top. They're the ones who direct the state. Each county has their own Office of Emergency Management. You got a pointer there, Harold? Let me swing back here and grab it. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I don't want to burn a hole in the screen, right? Okay, so that's the state side. Here's the AUXCOMM-ARES side. We have a state section leader. That's Tom Brown. And then we may or may not have a district coordinator. Right now, the one we have is inactive. That's assigned to our district. So there's really not one. So me, as the county emergency coordinator, I report directly to Tom. During disasters and emergencies, I do have a direct line of communications to the Office of Emergency Management. We maintain that through HF, because they have an HF unit that's always there and it's always manned. And it is manned by an amateur. They also have the RACES capability. They also have MARS capability for a military affiliated radio system. Yes?
So what are the districts?
They are essentially, there's
How many are
12 districts in the state. We are in District 9. So here's what the structure within the county looks like. This is what I'd like to get to. We're not quite there yet. We have, of course, myself as the emergency coordinator. All operations, we will have a safety officer assigned. We do not operate in the field without a safety officer. If I can't get one, guess who takes that role? I do. We operate under the incident command system. So anything I can't fill down here, I have to fill. I do have an an assistant coordinator. That is Jim Mansfield, WA4NOT. I also have assigned Assistant Emergency Coordinators for Operations. I've got one assigned for the East. That's Stacy, W1LLO. I'm looking for one for the western part of the county. I'd also like to come up with one for training. We do have one for technical support. That is Dale, WB9SZL. And he falls under here. I did not get him put in before I finished the slides up, or my ops people, which would fall under here. Actually, here they are right here. So there's training, the ops, east and west. We have, and we will develop EOC-COM teams and rapid response teams. They will look very similar, but their functions are a little different. The EOC communication team, these are people that are very specifically trained to operate out of an emergency operations center. They have very specific training. We have currently 3 people that have completed that training in total. We have several people that have one more element to finish, and then they will be fully qualified. Actually, I think some of them have 1, some of them have 2, but they will complete. And then we have the rapid response team that operates under a leader, that's whoever we pick, and 2 radio operators. What's the rapid response team do? Very simple, just what the name says. They respond rapidly wherever we need them to go. They establish and set up the communications. They get it established. They're there for a short period of time. Get it done, get it up and running until such time, especially if it's like the EOC, until that team arrives, or until a better qualified, a long-term team arrives. Rapid response teams, 24 hours. Everybody after that, 72. Minimum deployment. So we're going to get people in those positions, get you through that training. Here's what it says in the North Carolina Emergency Plan for Communications. We serve as an alternate backup communication system, voice and data, through a cadre, you folks, of trained and experienced volunteer operators. Like I said, the state maintains amateur stations at the state EOC, the western and eastern branch offices. We can be deployed to any of those and asked to man those radios. They expect us to pass message traffic through different mechanisms, voice, digital, CW, whatever. Because we have a lot of ways we can pass a piece of message, don't we? We can communicate in a lot of different ways. And they know it. They spelled it out. Okay? UHF, VHF, HF, mobile, portable. We got a lot of ways to talk, don't we? They recognize it. The digital EWL communications is all done by WinLink. They do have MARS stations that are set up for that. We, however, can do the same. We can interface with that. So if you do not have WinLink, RMS Express, download it, get it on your computer, learn how to work it, learn how to work it with your HF station, and we will eventually run some tests because that's the email system. That's how we do all that. The state does have MARS licenses. They actually have standalone stations that are operational 24 hours a day, that I can sit there and go through MARS because I am a MARS station. For those of you that don't know, I'm actually the State Emergency Operations Officer for MARS. And we have the capability to, I can sit in here right now if we have WinLink on the computers, I can jump over to a MARS frequency, I can type out an email to the state EOC and send it. It'll be received automatically, it'll pop up on their screens. They'll know it came from Forsyth County. So that's already in place. We supplement that. Typical deployments. You're just going to go sit wherever you're supposed to sit, where you're told to. It might be an EOC, it might be a forward command post. You might be working from your home or other location. We may deploy you to a post office with a mobile. We might deploy you to a fire station. Okay? We might deploy you upstream of a dam and have you watch the dam and tell us what you're seeing. You think we're going to put you downstream? Probably not. Wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be fun, right? No, upstream. Okay. We run small scale. That's the local nets. That's what we run on Thursday nights, or what we run when we do the weather nets or any other emergency operations nets. We have state net. The Tar Heel emergency net is the designated state net. And they have multiple HF frequencies. In the plan, what they've tasked us with is identifying, training, and assigning personnel to maintain that ESF support function during activations, to establish and maintain an organizational structure coincident with the Emergency Management Office of the State of North Carolina. And that's why we are now designated an AUXCOM unit. WinLink for field operations. They've written that several times in the plan. That's actually about, I didn't copy the entire plan because it's about 9 pages long. It's mentioned probably 6 more times in that plan. So you can tell that's relied on fairly heavily. We provide communications assistant, voice and written. The ICS 213 form is the official message form. We provide reports and support for disasters. Again, this is all straight out of the comm plan from the state. This is their words, not mine. At the direction of the State Public Information Office, we will provide public information releases to media outlets in disaster areas when no other mean is available. So guess what? If there's no telephone, the internet's down, nothing's working, and they've got a press release that needs to go to WXII, who's going to deliver that to WXII? We are. We're going to get it. We're going to be told to distribute it to media. We're going to go next door. We're going to go wherever. We're going to make some trips out, and we're going to hand that document to them. Here's your press release, so they can get it out over the air. Okay. Self-sustaining, 72 hours. That's what they want you to plan on, 72 hours. Look at this. Once again, WinLink's been mentioned. Exercise and drills. We are starting this year to do more drills. We ran one communications exercise last month. We will be running another one in May. We're going to continue to run one every quarter. In addition, we're going to do everything we can whenever MARS runs a communications exercise, the Department of Defense runs a COMEX with MARS. We are going to do what we can to integrate locally with that and provide information back to the MARS stations locally, which will be myself and ultimately, when he's qualified, Michael over here, K4OLD. And we will collect the information and we will put it into our system and send it through the MARS up to DOD because they request that. They want that type of interface. In addition, I'll let you know when they do COMEXs where we have the interoperability test. That's when you will get a MARS station that'll be on, I think it's a 60-meter band where the 5 channels are. And I'll tell you what channels. Usually it's either channel 3 or 5 that we're on. But we will put communications out and we will collect information from amateurs. You'll actually hear me on there with my MARS call sign, selecting information or getting information from people. WWV, WWVH. Who's familiar with those? Everybody familiar with those, right? Well, starting a test at the end of this month, the 23rd through, I think, the 2nd of May, Department of Defense is going to do some testing. They're going to put out a message at 10 after the hour on WWV, all channels, and at 50 after the hour on WWVH. It should essentially be the same message. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to collect from people who heard the message, what was the message that you understood, and provide that back, because they've asked us for that feedback, back to DOD. The idea being that when things start going crazy, the Department of Defense wants to use those 2 stations to put information out directly to amateur radio. And then have us, from the MARS side, interface with amateur radio and collect the requested information. And it could be things like, do you have commercial power? Do you have telephone? Do you have water? What's the damage you see in your area following a disaster? We can collect that data from you from your home. We put it all into a report. It gets sent up the hill. So it's a way of engaging you, bringing you more into that role and into that play. So that got a little further ahead of where we wanted to be, but that's good stuff. All right, ARES has changed. If anybody's kept up with ARRL and the board and what they're doing, they have now, as of the beginning of the year, they have signed the document, they've now got it out, and we're starting to get people involved in the training. 3 basic levels. Level 1, level 2 is essentially your ARES qualified people. That brings you up to a certain level. And then the management qualified folks. And it's pretty simple. Who's got a technician license or above? Okay, everybody raise their hand. Nod your head. Okay? All you need is local training, whatever we require you locally from the county to be qualified as basic, level 1 for ARES. However, if you want to go to level 2 and above, you got FEMA requirements, FEMA courses you got to complete, along with some ARL training. So let's walk through all of it. We're going to kind of side by side, AUXCOM side, ARES side. Hopefully this is not too confusing. If it is, we'll walk you through it a little better. Basic, level 1, you're just an operator. You're a basic operator, local training. This is when you'd be working on the ICS courses. And from ARRL, they could care less. You can stay at that level forever. Problem is, in North Carolina, it makes it very difficult to use you at that level because the state has mandated certain things. So we call you a trainee. That's the trainee level. You're qualified as a radio operator because you hold a license. You get local training. You're working on the ICS courses. We're going to give you 12 months to complete it. We'd like you to get it done in 12 months. It's not that difficult. The ICS courses are ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800. They are available online, and they take about 3 hours each to complete. It's 12 hours, and you've completed those. 12 hours in a year, you can probably handle that. Okay, most of you are already there. It's pretty simple. We do have some courses. Some of this is going to come up in classroom course training. The county just received a $1.5 million grant to conduct training, and we've already started. And so there will be some of these courses coming out in a classroom form. I will let you know as soon as I know when they're becoming available. If you need them, you can take them in a classroom. Otherwise, work on them online. And I'll give you the website to go to. Once you've completed, for level 2, you got to complete those 4 courses, plus take the ARRL's new EC-001 Basic Emergency Communications course. It is a 9-week mentor-led online course. It's free of charge, but it's 9 weeks long to go through it. Do what? I didn't hear you.
I said they used to charge for it.
They no longer do. It's free. And I have the state put me in, our state emergency coordinator along with our section leader from ARRL, both jointly put me into ARRL to be a field instructor in that course. As soon as that authorization comes through and I know what that course looks like, we will look at setting it up in a classroom setting. Hopefully it's good enough, it's going to be condensed enough and look good enough that we can get it done in a weekend as opposed to 9 weeks. It's self-paced. When I took it several years ago when you had to pay for it, I did it in a little over 5 weeks. And what slowed me down was the mentor. Because basically what you do is you go through a segment and you submit to your mentor a document. You're going to submit something to him, that whatever it asks for. It might ask for your communications planner. What are you going to do to set up this ARES unit? How do you organize it? They're going to ask you things like that, and you're going to have to write out a short little document, a paragraph or two. They're going to evaluate it. My problem was getting my mentor, who was on the other end of the states, over in the coast, getting him to look at it, review it, and reply to me in a timely fashion. That's what slowed me down. Because by the time he replied, I had already completed the next section and was ready to send it to him. I just couldn't send it to him until I got his reply. And so I'd get the email from him, I'd read it, I'd send him my new one. And he actually told me to slow down because I was beating him up. I wanted to get done with it. All right, from us, you've got the ICS courses, but we have a one-day AUXCOMM 101 course. It essentially, what we've done is taken that 9-week course, I've condensed it down to one day. We require that locally. If you have this, you don't have to go through this, as far as we're concerned. Red Cross Shelter Familiarization course. It's online from the Red Cross. We recommend it. We're considering making it mandatory, and I'll talk about that later when I get towards the end of the presentation. And you'll realize why I want to make it mandatory when we get there, but I don't want to go too fast. All right, ARES has a level 3, which is the management. They've got 7 more IS courses online that you've got to take from FEMA. What those courses designate, when you complete all of those, you actually get a second certificate. You get one for each, and then you get the FEMA Professional Development Certificate. That's what they want. It's a management certificate from FEMA. Then they also want you to take another 9-week course, which is their management course, EC-016. And it is another 9 weeks of good stuff. Okay, so if you want to become a management person in ARES, you've got to have that. Anybody who's qualified or wants to qualify to be an emergency coordinator has to have taken these courses. If you want to be that designation level 3 from ARES, you've got to have them. Okay. For us, we really don't have a level 3 per se. What we have is what we call EOC operations level, qualifies you as what's called a communicator. Means you're basic qualified and you've completed a one-day EOC net control course that we offer here. We've developed it here. It's designed specifically to be able to operate an REOC and interface in an incident command system with that emergency management agency and how we operate in the EOC. And trust me, it's a fast-paced day, and you're going to need every bit of it when you walk in. Okay? So you need to have that training as well. When you get that, you're EOC qualified. You become part of that EOC team. Remember earlier we had the screen up there? 3 people. We had a team lead, and then we had the 2 communicators. Our next level is what we call the lead level. And basically you're qualified in EOC. You've completed Web EOC. That is a county requirement. It's a county product. It is a software package that we operate in within the EOC. It's how we communicate between operations, planning, logistics, communications, and all the other various sections. When you've got an EOC that's got 50, 60 people in it, and you're sitting over in a communications section, you don't want to have to go, let's see, this has got to go to the unit resource request leader and have to walk through and try to figure out where in 60 people that person is. Instead, through this system, we type that in, that message, to that person, and it's an internal email, goes to them, flashes on their screen, and they respond back to us. The other thing it does is eliminates a lot of paper trail because it's all kept electronically. It stays right there in the system. So at the end of the event, we've got all of it in an electronic format instead of 3 tractor trailers worth of paper. So we get people qualified in it. You have to have that training to be a communications lead. We'd like you to have IS 300. Why? Because when you walk in as a communications lead, you are going to almost act as the AUXCOM manager for that duty period, for that operational period. You will essentially be that person. So you have to have some more knowledge. You really have to be able to interface well with the professionals that are in that EOC, that are operating and managing that event. And I will tell you from experience, it gets very intense. And if you don't have that knowledge, you can quickly fall behind in what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. That's a 3-day course. It's a classroom course. Unfortunately, it's 99% of the time it's offered during the week. Good thing is it's going to be offered here in the county very, very soon. If you have 100 and 200, 700 and 800, you can get into NC terms and take it. AUXCOM. I have not heard a date for AUXCOM in the state yet. When I do, I will let you know. Again, you have to have ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800 to be qualified for that course. It is a 4-day, or actually a 3-day course, but it takes 4 days because you have to get down a day early. You've got, no, take it back, it's a 4-day course. Because you're going to go down, you're going to have 3 days of instruction and a day of exercise. The day of exercise, you are interfacing directly in a field situation with public safety communications professionals. And they're going to expect you to know exactly what you need to do when you walk out there. They're going to want you to know what you need to do because you're interfacing with them. You're going to answer questions. When I went through the course, one of the questions they asked, they looked at our incident, at our what they call as a communications lead and all. They looked at him, the COML, and said, I need to know what the frequency is for FRS channel 11. You know what he did? I ain't got a clue. Looks over at the communications technician, says, what's that? I'm in the middle of going through my HT and changing it back from name to frequency. And as soon as I got it back over to frequency, I looked over at him because he was sitting next to me and I said, it's this. He goes, how'd you know? I said, it's right here in my handheld. I've got it. So we have that capability. We were asked to make a WinLink contact with state EOC. It wasn't a problem. We had an HF radio. We had a laptop that had WinLink on it. Hooked them up. Made the contact with the state. That's what AUXCOM is. We make things happen when they don't have an idea how to make it happen. How many frequencies does the average public safety entity have assigned to them in their county? Anybody got an idea? It ain't a lot. No, they have more than that. They may have anywhere from 6 to 30, okay, depending on the size of the municipality. They may have a few more, but they're set. They're set frequencies. How many frequencies do we have to operate on? Anybody counted them up? Anybody even tried? Okay? We can go almost anywhere. So when their stuff fails, we can still make it. We can still get it through. That's what AUXCOM is. That's why the state puts a huge, huge importance upon it. That's why the county does the same. Then we have our staff level. You got to be lead qualified and you got to be ARL level 3. If you're going to be the EC, and we'd like our deputy or our assistant ECs to be the same. Why? Anybody got an idea why? That's right. They may have to fill a slot. Realize that right now I am the only one that's at a level 3 that I know of, that I have records for. I'm also part of the Forsyth County Incident Management Team. I can be deployed anywhere in the state of North Carolina at a moment's notice. If I'm not here, who has to pick up the slack? One of my assistants. So having them have this training helps out tremendously because they can walk into the slot. So why do we train? Why is all this required? Why do we want all these things to happen? Well, we want to learn new skills. We want to know our procedures and our policies. Our skill set's perishable. Who in here does CW? What happens if you don't do CW for like 6 months? What happens to your hand? Your speed goes down, doesn't it? You kind of lose that. It's a perishable skill. All of our skill sets are perishable when it comes to radios. Our knowledge of the procedures, and our procedures are different. Who gets on a rag chew net periodically? Okay, I can guarantee you that our procedures don't follow rag chew net procedures. Okay, totally different animals. Who does contesting? It's great stuff. Contesting's awesome, and it's a needed thing. Why? Because it does help you with some of your communication skills. It also helps you build better antennas, right, Dave? Yeah, because if you want to make that contest, you got to have a good antenna. Okay? But our skills are perishable. We also got to be prepared at any moment. When's the last time a major disaster hit Forsyth County? Well, if you talk to the town council of the town I live in, the answer is not in my lifetime. Okay? When is the next disaster going to happen countywide? It can happen in 30 seconds. Okay? We don't know. We got to be prepared. Well, we're not really on an earthquake fault. It's going to really take some serious stuff to give us an earthquake here, but anything's possible. Stranger things have happened. Here's your course. This is where you go. You can copy that down, or the easiest way that I tell people, if you want to find it online, Google is your friend. Pull up Google, type in ICS-100, and one of the very first things that pops up is going to be the FEMA website, the FEMA Independent Study website. You can go in there. There's several hundred courses you can take. Feel free to take them all. Some of them are an hour. Some of them are 32 hours. Feel free to take whatever you want, but you got to take those 4.
So, where do you go to Google?
Just go in Google and type in ICS-100 in the search engine, and it'll pop it. It'll pop it up. Yep. And it'll take you right to that. It'll take you right into there. Okay. Again, North Carolina mandated these. If you want to operate in the EOC, if you want to operate in a command post, any forward location where ICS is occurring, where we're interfacing directly with public safety professionals, we have to have those courses. You have to have that certification. Excuse me. For if you want to be a level 2 person with ARRL, it's mandated by them. Red Cross shelter familiarization. Technically, to walk into a shelter and provide communications for the Red Cross, you have to have completed this training. It's online. It's not very long course. It's pretty simple. You can get through it without too much pain. But here's one of the reasons I'm asking people to do it, and we're going to get to it in a little bit. But because to go into a shelter, by Red Cross policy, you have to have completed their background check, which is a criminal history records check. They pay for it. Keep that in mind. We'll get back to that in a minute. So combining our training, looking at what it looks like combined. If you want to be a communicator with us, you're going to take either the course 100 or 001, or you're going to take our 1-day course or their 9-week course. You also, letter and, have to take the NCS course or have gone through the AUXCOM certification. 1 day, 3 days. Now I will tell you this. If you have the opportunity to take this, even if you've already taken the NCS course, take that. I've compressed into 1 day, basically forms and everything we use in the EOC into 1 day. This is a 3-day course. Trust me, you'll get a lot out of it, and it'll give you a better understanding of working in that EOC. But again, it's a 3+ day course. When I went last year, the state of North Carolina picked up the hotel. All I had to do was pay for whatever meals I ate in the evening because they provided The hotel provided breakfast, the little continental thing. The school provided lunch. I had to buy my dinner and pay for my fuel down to Charlotte and back, which is where it was held. It was held at Charlotte Fire Academy. Good course. I encourage people to take it. If you want to take and be a communications lead, you've got to have Web EOC certification. Anybody familiar with NC terms? Okay. If you've taken anything through the state, anything through the state, you're going to be going through this course to register for it. You're going to go there to register it. Again, Google's your friend. Type in NC space TERMS. And it'll pop right up. It'll be the first thing that pops up in the search engine. Click on it. You're going to have to sign in. You have to register. And then you'll have to sign in. Going back to the FEMA real quick, you will get the FEMA will ask you a bunch of questions when you register. They're going to issue you a student ID number. Remember that ID number. Put it somewhere that you can get to it, because you are going to be asked for it a lot. There's a lot of courses through terms that they're going to ask you for that FEMA student ID number. The reason is all that gets married up. It gets tracked by your student ID number. Okay. But that's where all your training, and everything, just about everything in there, there's a few things you would not qualify for. They would tell you no. But for the most part, I'd say at least 70% of what's available in terms, once you meet the basic 4 IS requirements, are open to you to take. And I encourage you to take stuff that's communications, emergency operations related with the EOC. Again, staff positions, you're mandated by ARRL, all of that, 9 week. And I can't remember how long it took me to get through that. I think that's 2 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours, 3. I think that's 1. I can't remember the rest. Anyway, you get the picture. A lot of training you got to go through. These are all online, everything there. Okay. IS 300, three-day class, again, through terms. IS 775, I encourage you to take that. If you are a EOC-COM team lead, or you're going to be a communicator in the EOC, take that online course. Very, very good information on how to interface and how all this meshes in the EOC. I just completed a higher level course of that last week, and I will tell you what, it about kicked my butt. And I do this stuff all the time. It was 3 days of pure, you know what. The AUXCOM course, again, will be through the NC terms. Okay. I'll make all this available to whoever. I'm going to pull some slides out, but I will put the presentation minus a few slides up on the website. All right, Skywarn, we recommend everybody have it. We just had it in March. You got to have it biannually by the Weather Service to maintain your currency. We also recommend you take IS 1160. It's an 8-hour course on disaster assessment. It does certify you. It is an actual certification course as opposed to, or qualification course as opposed to where you get a certificate that says, hey, you completed this. This actually gives you a qualification certificate stating you are qualified as a disaster assessment person for FEMA. It is an 8-hour course. It is a lot of information. And it is something we want to provide. In the county, guess how many people we have that do disaster assessment in the county? Anybody got a guess? 2 people. They are our building inspectors in the county. So what happens with 2 people and you got a countywide disaster? What do you think happens? Oh, yeah. And every day that it takes them to complete that disaster assessment is one day down the road from getting what? FEMA assistance, even more importantly, FEMA money. quicker we can get money rolling in here, the better it is for everybody. So if we can provide disaster assessment teams with people that have that certification, that assists the county. Guess what we just did when we do that? What did we just make AUXCOM in Forsyth County? More viable, more usable for the county, more needed by them. We made ourselves a better product. Okay. And again, those types of people we could put as part of an RTT, rapid response team. We got a major disaster, we got tornadoes just rolled through, multiple tornadoes, multiple locations. County, of course, we ramp up, and I go look right, turn around, right to our operations person, say, I got 2 RTTs ready to go. He'll go dispatch them. And we dispatch 2 rapid response teams that are FEMA disaster assessment qualified. You go out and you do a quick scan of the area. You do a quick assessment and come back, this is what we see. We get it back radio-wise. We put that into our initial report to FEMA. We're done in hours instead of days. Okay, what are we doing? Fulfilling one of our regulatory roles. What's our regulatory roles? What's under the basis of amateur radio? What's item number 1? Anybody know? Provide emergency communications, emergency support. Okay. So that's what we're doing. Make the net. 145, 470, 8:30 on Thursday evenings. We try not to run late. It says 2000. I apologize. It's 2030 is when we start, 20-30 hours. I was typing fast and I missed that on the review. I'd like to do it at 8 o'clock, but we interfere with the Baptist Men's Net on HF, and we want to try to be nice to those guys because one of the things they do when we go in the field is feed us. So we try to be nice to them. Anyway, Thursday night, we conduct a lot of training. You will see most of the training that we cover on Thursday nights shortly after will be posted on the website under our Documents Forms page for you to go back and review. This couple of weeks ago, we sent out a formal message as part of our training. Sent it out on a 213 for people to copy, and they had to respond. Out of everybody I sent out to, so far, I have received back 1 message. There were 14 people on the net. Now, 2 others passed the message the way they needed to pass it, but I haven't gotten the response from the people they sent it to. That's got to come back to me. It was a round robin exercise, meaning I sent the message out to everybody in general. But what I said is, at the next net, when you reply to the person who checked into the net immediately prior to you. So, Ken checks in. Everybody's checked in. You got the message. Well, as we're going down, Ken checks in and then Mary checks in. Mary was supposed to reply with her information to Ken, and then Ken was ultimately supposed to relay that message as a relay station back to me. That way everybody got the opportunity to receive, to send a message. Okay? And we're going to do that again. We're going to do that more. Why do we want to do it? Because if you're not proficient in message traffic handling, formal messages, especially on a 213 form, and you send it rapidly, you're not going to have people copying it. Okay? If I come out and I'm reading something to you, a message for you to write down, and I go, all personnel are encouraged to conduct at least 1 or more AUXCOMM-ARES nets annually. Who wrote that down while I was saying it? You can't write that fast. You got to learn how to do it. There's a particular tempo and speed to that. All right, another thing, once you've completed the NCS training, we want you to conduct a net. You don't have to do it every month. You don't have to do it every week. But we want you to get in there and conduct a net. Why? So you can learn how to do it. The time to conduct your first net is not in the middle when all hell breaking loose. Okay? That's not the time to do that. The time to try it and make mistakes is on Thursday nights. That's our training net. That's what we're doing. So come on, tell me you want to take it and do it. Right now, the only two people that run those nets are Jim Mansfield and myself. He runs one, I run the rest.
But what if you mess up? I mean, you feel stupid.
Don't feel stupid. Okay? People tell me all the time, you sound professional when you do this. You really know how to do it. Guys, I've been doing it for 40 years. Not necessarily with amateur radio, but through public safety and a lot of other entities. It's just sheer repetition. I'm that good. Guaranteed, when I first started out, I was tripping over mic cords, wrapping myself around the neck with coax, swallowing the microphone, and I was one of those that got on there and spoke at the speed of heat because I wanted to get off the microphone. I've learned over the years how to do it and do it right. If we practice that every time we're on the air, we get better. If we practice running the net once in a while, at least once every 6 months, realize how many people in the room. What do we got here? 40-some people, roughly? About 40? If every one of you took one net, that's almost the entire year. You don't have to do it again, but you keep that skill. That's all it takes. Very simple. Skills are perishable. We're going to conduct more communications exercises. We talked about that every quarter. You need to make one a year, minimum. Make one a year. Not much to ask. They're going to last 1 to 2 hours. Some of them might be, an hour or two this week, and then you got to pick up next week and make a reply, just like the message one. We did it in 30 minutes and during normal net time, and then you reply the following week or a couple weeks down. These are in addition to our public service events. By the way, who was at Hanging Rock Saturday with me? Raise your hands. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. You guys did an awesome job, and the hikers were impressed. The coordinators loved us. Why? Because they knew they had reliable communications. At any point in time, every time they came up and said, where's the last hiker, where's this group, where's this, what's this, we had the answers. We had the communications, and they loved it. They didn't have that before. They've run that several years, and they haven't had it. They had it this year first time. I guarantee they're going to ask us again back. The other nice thing is they usually give us in fact, I don't know what they're going to give us this year. Last year when we worked with this group, they gave us $250. I imagine we're probably going to get something similar this year from that event. So that gives us a little bit of funds for a little bit of effort. Okay? But what did we practice? What were we, David, what were we on? We were on simplex, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No repeaters. Did we have to do any relays? One. Okay. Guess what? Is that practice in emergency operations?
Yes.
Yeah. Because what's the possibility of a repeater going down? Even though we have 5, what could happen if we lose all 5, which we better not, but if we do, it's a really bad day. Okay. But we're going simplex, and it's nice to know we can do that. It's nice to know we have the skills to do that, and we're not trying to figure out how do we relay. How do we make this happen? We practice it. And that will be one of the COMEXs coming up. We'll start the net on the net frequency, and we're going to go to simplex. And we're going to play on simplex. Then we'll do another net, but we'll start on the frequency, and we're going to go to 10 meters, and we're going to play on 10 meters.
But what if you don't have 10 meters?
You play on simplex with net control. That's the nice thing. You know why I call my place the command post? Okay, is because I can operate on every band and I don't have an all-in-one radio. I got a radio for every band. So I can play multiple bands, and that includes 2 HF rigs. So I can operate 2 different bands there and play. Okay. It gets crazy at times trying to work a half a dozen mics, but it can be done. Okay, badging. This is new. Who has the orange badge with them tonight? There we go. Henry's got the orange badge. Those badges will rapidly become invalid. You will be able to take those and put them up on your wall, in your shack, whatever you want to do with them, they're fine. We're not going to collect them. Most of them have your club ID on the other side. That's an old one. Anyway, we got a new one. And those badges will be required to be worn and displayed at all times in the EOC. And this doesn't matter where you are. Whether you're in Forsyth County's EOC at the Sheriff's Department, whether you're in Kernersville EOC operating there, Clemens EOC, Louisville's EOC, Davie County's EOC, Davidson County's EOC, Stokes, Yadkinville. Okay, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to wear that ID and be displayed. If we're in field operations, when we're doing all of our public service events, Tour de Tanglewood, all that cool stuff, we'd still like you to wear it there. Why? You're readily identifiable. Your club ID, who has the most current club ID on them that they can show everybody? There we go. That ID will not get you into a command post or an EOC. You will be turned away at the door and told, thank you, no thank you. Doesn't matter, you can say all day long, but I'm sent here. They're not going to let you in. We're getting them made up, and you'll see them here shortly. Okay? In fact, very quickly. On those IDs, we'll have your qualification level. It'll say what you're qualified to do. It'll have it'll be valid for 2 years, and it's only valid if you've got your current FCC license. Who has that in their pocket? Everybody better raise their hand. You got to have it with you when you operate, right? Okay? And a valid government-issued photo ID, which would be? Driver's license, passport, government-issued ID of some type. Okay? University of whatever? No. Okay? We're still walking through all the stuff with the county. Ultimately, there will be a non-disclosure agreement that you will sign for working in the EOC. And why do you think we want that? Privacy. You're going to be exposed in that EOC level to a lot of different things. You'll be exposed to personally identifiable information, which is somebody's full name, their address, potentially their social security number. You may be even exposed to health information. You may be exposed to law enforcement sensitive information, not just for official use only information, but law enforcement sensitive. This is stuff we don't want in the public realm. So why would we want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement? So we can hold your feet to the fire. And if you do, we can put you in jail. Okay? Again, that's not me. That's coming from the county and the state. This is the wave of the future. This is what's happening. To stay relevant, we got to follow suit. We just got to suck it up and make it happen. All right, here's what our IDs look like. This is the training level or the base level. If you've got no ICS courses, if you've not taken our 101 course or our net control course or anything else, you're brand new. Who's brand new to the hobby? Anybody in here? Okay. You're going to get one of these. It's going to have your name on it, radio operator. You will not have EOC. It'll have an expiration date and a number for tracking. Because when I'm dispatching a team to an EOC or command post, they're going to get a message that says, expect these people, ID number's this. And they're going to look for your name, they're going to look for your ID number, and they're going to make sure it's not expired. Then they're going to let you into the command post or the EOC. Any of those not work, and it doesn't match your government-issued ID, you're turned away at the door. All right, these are your qualification levels. Notice the color changed. Green is trainee, brand new, you're learning. You're not there yet. That's the level 1. Anybody that stays level 1 with ARRL will forever keep a green badge. If you go above that, you'll get a blue one. This is your basic level. You've completed the 4 courses. You've completed our 101 course. You become a communicator. Okay? Once you've completed the NCS course, you will have EOC put down here. And your badge will look like that. That qualifies you to walk into an EOC when dispatched. Do we ever self-deploy? No. No. You show up in an EOC when something's going on without me dispatching you there, number one, you'll be turned away. Number two, I'm going to get a phone call. And shortly after that, you're going to get a phone call. Why? Because stuff rolls downhill. Because I'm going to get chewed out, and you can bet I'm going to chew somebody out. Don't deploy without being told to. We have already had that happen, folks, out of this group. The individual's no longer been showing up since that day. And I hate to say that, but we had somebody do that. I won't go into all the details, but it was like a 1 a.m. phone call that I got, and I was not happy. Especially since I had to go out in the field to keep that person from being arrested. Not a good deal. Okay, bad story aside, let's rock on. If you become a communications lead, you'll have CL added to your license or your badge, okay? And it'll actually say communications lead. That means you're the boss. You and 2 communicators walk into an EOC, a command post, whatever. You are the boss of that comm team. You make the decisions. Okay, it's not a committee. One leader, right? And that person is the one that communicates to the COML within the communications unit and or the logistics officer if there's not a COML. Okay? You're the only person. You're the one, you're the conduit, the funnel through for all of amateur radio in that operation. They're not going to come to anybody else but you. You're also what? Web EOC qualified, right? You're the only one that's going to be on that computer system because you're the only one that can log into it out of that group. You're going to be on it. You're going to be the one managing it, making all that happen. The 2 communicators are going to be doing what? Communicating. They're on the radio. Okay? And we do have 2 radios down at the EOC. Right now we have the capability of operating on VHF, UHF. We can do any combination, both VHF operations or split or both UHF. They are working as soon as they can get the contractors back up and get everybody coordinated. They're going to redo our HF antenna. I have been told that should happen here sometime hopefully this month, and we will be able to communicate on HF instead of a Faraday cage. Not really cool. It was not anybody's fault. I'm not going to put blame on anybody. It just happened. Nobody's really sure how, but it did. All right. If you're a staff person, you'll have, for example, this is what my badge looks like. It'll have your title in here, like Stacy's will say AEC-Operations East. That identifies her as a staff person. EOC, Communications Lead. And yes, my badge number is number 1. Figured I get to be number 1 at something, right? I sure am number 1 on a lot of people's list. Current staffing, I'm the EC. Jim is our AEC. Stacy is our operations for East. And Dale is our tech person. I am looking for more staff. It doesn't take a lot. You're not going to be working 8 days a week, 36 hours a day. Trust me. I do that. Nobody else has to. But you are going to help out when we need it. Right now we have 3 comm leads fully qualified. We have 5 EOC communicators, 24 basic communicators, and 35 people in the system that are set up as radio operators. I'd like to see all of this go away. I'd like to see everybody at least here, and I'd like to see this number, actually preferably that number, right here. I'd love to have 30 people EOC communicators or EOC comm lead qualified. Why do we need comm lead people? They're in charge, right? They coordinate. Typical operational period in an EOC is 12 hours. That's a long time. You're 12 hours on, you're 12 hours off, you're 12 hours on, you're 12 hours off. How many days do you think you can do that before you wear flaps flat out? Yeah, Harold's like 1. Okay, 7 days. That's what everybody plans on. That's a 7-day period for us. After 7 days, we demobilize and somebody else comes in and handles it. Because you're at that point in time, you're exhausted, you're beyond. And you start to fall behind. Right now, with 3 leads, can we do that? We go into a 24-hour operation, we got 2 people operating, and if I'm deployed, guess what? It's the other 2. And they can only do it for so long. And if we go to 8-hour shifts, it's even tougher. So we want to get everybody moved up. I'd love to see a lot of communication leads because then we have that flexibility. We have the ability to do whatever's necessary. I know I'm running late. I'm trying to speed this through. I told you it was a lot of information. Access authority. If you're green card, you're not going to go into an EOC unless a communication lead is already there escorting you in for training purposes. You're just not going to go in. You're not going to be assigned as a primary radio operator during an actual disaster or emergency, and you're not going to be assigned as a net control station. Just not going to happen. You don't have the training. We can use you on our public service events as a stress stop or SAG operator. We can use you for hanging rock. Gives you some experience. But I can't put you in a command post or an EOC. Blue level, you can get into a non-ICS facility, i.e. you can get into anything but the EOC. You can get in here to a shelter, you can get into other locations, and we can get you into other locations as long as a comm lead's there for training. You can also act as an NCS at public service events, like Tour de Tanglewood. Why is that? You're gaining experience. If you've got the EOC level or higher, meaning you've got EOC access, or you're a comm lead, you can pretty much do anything at that stage. That's where you want to be. You can do it all. Red Cross, remember what I talked about Red Cross earlier? Background checks? Well, the state and the county would love us to do background checks for people going into the EOC. What they want is what's called a CHRC, Criminal History Record Check. Not worried about your credit, not worried about your driver's license per se. What we're worried about is, have you been convicted of fraud, identity theft, violence, etc. Those types of things. Because if you are, we don't want you there. Red Cross doesn't either. The nice thing about doing this through the Red Cross is this. They pay for it. They pay for the background checks. Right now we're trying to figure out how we interface with that so that if we do it that way and we get everybody through Red Cross shelter familiarization and get you through their background check where they can allow us not to see your background. I do not need to know what your convictions are. Could care less. What I do need to know is when I hand them that list that says, here's what's disqualifying, all I need to know is a yes or a no. Yes, they passed it, or no, they didn't. I don't need to know why. If you didn't pass, you didn't pass. Don't care. I just need to know you passed. And if you passed, then I can say, yeah, they've passed the background check. They're good to go. That's coming. It's not mandated yet, but it is coming. This is one way to help us do it and have somebody else pay for it. You like that? The other option we have, if we can't work it this way, is a one-time member pay. The background checks, depending on which company I work with, I've already talked to several companies, can be anywhere from $19 to $24. It's a one-time fee. It's done, you're done. Okay? So I'm wanting to push this direction. I will have more once Red Cross National gets back to me on how that interface would work. Yes. You had a driver's record check. That's all they did was check your DL, your driving record. And that was to make sure you didn't have 20 speeding tickets, 4 reckless driving charges, and 3 fatality accidents. Okay? Again, the county and state are requesting these to be done. They have not mandated them yet. The pushback has been, whenever the discussions have been, we want it mandated, who's paying for it? If you mandate it, you pay for it. That's why the Red Cross mandates that they pay for it. Kind of a good way. Like I said, MS does your records check on your driver's record. All right, tonight I have a lot of people. I'm going to pass these around. Just start passing them around there, Ken. I'm going to ask you to fill out another Form 100. This is the application form. I have a lot of emails that are bouncing because I've got the emails. I've got bad emails. And I even go back and look at the sheet you gave me, and what I have in my system is exactly what you gave me. And I have emails bouncing. Or I don't have your correct phone number. We've got to be able to get hold of you when we need you. So these are being passed around. Everybody take one and fill it out, please, and leave it with me tonight if you can. Annually, update that with me. If you change a phone number, if you change an email, if you get rid of an old email and get a new one, okay? If you upgrade your license from tech to general, general to advanced, advanced to whatever else comes next, okay? Or extra, let me know so we have an idea what your qualifications are. If you add equipment, you need to let us know. If you initially wrote down, I've got a Bofang handheld, I'm good on portable, 2 meters and 70 or 440, and now you've turned around, you've got an HF radio, you've got a Fusion radio, you've got a D-Star radio. I need to know all that. I need to know not what the radio is, but what the capability is. We always need to be ready and trained and prepared to go anywhere, anytime. Okay. No. If you look real close, you'll notice there's a block underneath the back of his car. I think it's the only way they could keep it from sitting down. That is a lot of antennas. Okay. And any questions? Because there might be answers. I don't know yet. I know it's a lot of information. Folks, we've changed. A lot of this is mandated by ARRL. Some of it's mandated by the state. It's your option, whether you want to do all of it or not. The reality is that if we do it and we take the training, we stay viable and a viable part of the emergency operations, which they want us to be, which we're mandated by federal law to be. Not that I'm aware of, but we can use WinLink on pretty much anything. There's nothing that I've seen on the documents we've got, but I can double check. I mean, yeah. I'll go back through and see. I just looked at the state's 217 the other day. Okay. For those of you that do not have it, and this is another reason I need your email account. One of the ICS forms that we use is called a 217A. What that has is it's a frequency listing. It lists out the frequencies that we use. And since we work in multiple counties and have the capabilities of going to multiple counties, we have coordinated frequencies. Repeaters are easy, right? They're already coordinated. But what frequencies, if we go into a multi-county disaster, are going to be used simplex between Guilford, Forsyth, Davie, Davidson? If we're all having to use simplex, how are we going to stay off of each other and prearrange? We've already prearranged frequencies. Frequencies are named. I can tell you that if we're in a disaster situation, I'm not going to tell you if we're operating on a 4.7 repeater. I'm not going to say, okay, Terry, meet me on the 640 repeater. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to give you a tactical frequency. I'm going to say, meet me on TAC 3. You need to know what TAC 3 is. The only way you're going to know that is by receiving the ICS 217A form that we have, the Triad Consolidated List. And the only way you're going to get that is with an accurate email address. It is a for official use only document. It will not be put in the public domain. We ever find it there and we find the person who put it there, I can guarantee you there's ramifications. Okay? Why do we have, and we go to tactical frequency names when we go into emergency operations? Anybody got an idea? Nobody crazy. Well, first off, who has scanners? Every news agency out there has scanners, and I can guarantee you they've already figured out that 470 is our primary frequency. Why? It's published. So we're going to start operations there, but we may move to another TAC frequency. In that minute that it takes me to take you over, communicate with you on a TAC frequency, and then come back to primary, they can't find us that quick. They're still scanning. We've already completed our communication. All they're going to hear is us check it out and coming back. Communication security. So there might be reasons to do that. How many people are fusion capable? Okay. Fusion is our digital mode here in the county. We have 2 fusion repeaters, hopefully more, that'll be up and running. Okay, and that's going to be our digital voice mode. Can we do fusion digital simplex? Sure. You don't have to go through a repeater. You can do it in radio.
So how are we
Okay.
going to know when these classes are ready?
The classes? Well, if there are local classes, they'll be published. If I get word about something's going to be put on terms, like the CERT class coming up in May, you can go register for it. If you want to take the CERT class, it's already on terms. I'll let people know that these are the courses coming up that might be of interest. I'm usually told about them ahead of time before they get put up. And I'll give the information as quick as I can. But I have to have your email address. I do put stuff on the website. Terry maintains it, and Jim register. They both maintain our website. I give them a lot of information, and they're always making changes to our training page to add training.
You have a web address? Email address? Your email address?
Web email address? The email address for me comes directly to me is ARES, A-E-R-E-S, at W4NC.com. ARES at W4NC.com. Comes straight to me. And I'll get it on my smartphone as soon as I get back in smartphone range. In the basement, it won't work. Okay? So any other questions? I am right now planning to run 2 courses somewhere in the summer. I'm going to run the 101 course, the ECOM 101 course. It'll be a Saturday, so we can start getting people through it. And I'm going to run a net controller course again on a Saturday. I'm going to try to do these one in July and one the latter part of August. I will not be able to do it the first part of August because I will be in a 5-day class on the other end of the state as an all-hazard safety officer course, which is going to be loads of fun.
Do you have any idea which day you're looking at?
It'll be a Saturday. I have not even looked at the calendar yet, but it'll probably be the latter part of July.
What kind of fire notice? How long fire?
I'm hoping to put that out here sometime this month.
Okay.
I just got to.
3 weeks to get a Saturday off.
Oh, well, you'll have plenty of time, trust me. I just got to look at the calendar and marry it with my training that I've got. And we've got some exercises from the incident management team side. So I got to look at all those and marry all that up and make sure I got a free day. Because we get fairly busy during the summer. Any other questions? Because I know Dale's got to make a repeater report and we got to get out the door.
Okay, yes. When is the MS going to be?
MS event.
Yes.
Tour to Tanglewood. The last weekend of September.
28, 29.
Last weekend of September. We need SAGs, we need motocross, or moto people, motocross, motorcycle riders with radios, with amateur radios, not CBs. And we need SAGs, rest stop people, we need some people with a command post, etc. One other event we do have coming up this month, I think it's the 22nd or 23rd, it's a Saturday, here in Winston-Salem. It is. Maybe it's the 20th. I think it's either 20th or 27th. I got to double check. Check your calendars. I need one person. Actually, I need two, but because I'm going to be there. But I need somebody with a high capacity vehicle, meaning you can carry with seats and seat belts 3 or 4 people with a radio. And I need somebody to be back at the start finish line. We have I think it's a 5-8K walk run that MS has. They've asked us to provide communication support. 27th. They've asked us to provide one person at the start finish and a mobile for the event. That's all they've asked for. We added one on the 6th, but that was handled by Greensboro because it was in their area. And they handled it very well while we handled Hanging Rock. So we do have that. So if you want to do that, please let me know. Again, it's going to be a half-day event. We're going to be in there in the morning. They're going to be done by noonish, 1 o'clock or so. And we'll be ready to get out the door and enjoy the rest of Saturday. Any other questions? Thank you guys for coming out.
Okay, thank you, Harlan. We're wishing we had a good emergency. We could try our Dale, you want to come up and give a repeater report? I wanted to thank Van Key for providing the refreshments tonight. Forgot to mention that a while ago. Steve Patterson is out, and we appreciate Van stepping in. Where's the box? Right here.
Testing, we had not the abundance like you used to have. We had 2 people.
See him.
I will. Thank you. Not licensed to use this. We had 2 people with tests tonight, and once again, they were outnumbered with, what do we have, 6 VEs? Yeah, so. And are the folks that passed, are any of them here tonight? Benjamin and Joshua. I think they had to take off, but we have one new tech and KN40NP from Mooresville passed as general. So you hear him on the air, give him a congratulations. Okay, now switching gears to the repeaters. All 3 repeaters are up. Talk a little bit about Forsyth. I'll try to keep it brief because I know you've been through a little box. We have internet up at the Forsyth site. We're going to use it for control and other things. It works great for pulling up an internet page or Googling, but that's not the reason we have it up there. And the reason I mention that, it's got to be bi-directional, not just one way. So I've been working with the internet service provider, and thanks to Sam, several 90-minute calls trying to get the network configured, and we're going to have new equipment up there toward the end of this month, so hopefully we'll be able to get that taken care of and have some new control and some new things here in the near future. So that's for the 4.7 machine up on the mountain, the long-range machine. The 2 other machines on Baptist Hospital, I'm standing in the right place here. They're fusion machines. In English, that means they're new Yaesu repeaters that'll work in analog mode, so you don't have to buy a new radio. But if you do want to use the digital mode, you don't already have a digital fusion repeater or fusion radio, that'll necessitate a purchase, but it's not necessary. The repeater listens in what they call automatic mode. So the key is the last signal that comes in, that will transmit out in analog, or if it's in digital, it'll transmit out in digital. It does automatic switching. That's the good news. The challenge we have right now, the systems are up, they work in analog. We do have to replace the antenna, get a little better range, but the digital
There's some of the digital group configurations that aren't quite working right. Could be fixed. Just got to get somebody with the digital radio, which I don't have yet. There's about 4 or 5 of you in here. We're going to use that. We'll do some testing and get it set up in the right mode so that those folks can use it and analog can use it at any time. So it's been a lot of things happening. We're going to continue with that and also upgrade the antenna sometime. Today would have been a great day with all the rain and the storms out there, but we're going to have to wait for another time to go up on the hospital roof. So I promised I'd keep it brief. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you very much.
We're about done. I just wanted to mention that thanks to Don Edwards and Harold Richardson, we have a new ARES Go Box, and this thing is really nice. We initially had some issues with the radio. It's fixed now? Or
The radio's fixed now. We used this at the Hanging Rock exercise or activity, and it worked well. Volume's a little low on the speakers, but other than that, it worked well, and it was great. I mean, it works fantastic. We really enjoyed it. Gives us some great capabilities. The nice thing about it, it's in a secure case. We can move it around, do whatever we want with it, and we still got to find the fuses to go for the switch in the back, and it'll be fully up and running. But this will be located once we're finished with tweaking it and getting everything where we want it. It will actually be located in the EOC, so I can take my personal radios back, and it'll stay down there and be ready to be deployed there or anywhere else we need to use it.
Okay, thank you, Harlan. I know we ran late. I apologize. Is there anything else that anybody wants to say tonight? If not, do I hear a motion? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Don't forget your forms. Please get them to me so I can have your information.